wire up problem number 1. I know we've done this a few times, but we're going to go through those steps and then we're going to move on to 2 stop buttons and 2 start buttons. Once you have the basic concept of problem number 1, it's very easy to add the additional stops and the additional starts as needed. You could have 1, you could have 2, you could have 20 of each button. Okay, so first thing we want to do is make sure our power's off up top. Make sure there's no power coming to the board. Safety first. And leaving our L1 side, or our hot side, our line side, we're going to come out of there and we're going to go into our stop button. Okay, for our stop button, we're always going to wire that up to a normally closed set of contacts, which is the top side of the button. So I'm going to use this red stop button here, and I'm going to use this black start button, okay? And we're going to wire up M1, okay? So now I need to go from the opposite side of that stop button over to my normally open contacts on my start button, okay? From the other side of I'm going to follow this directly across the line, okay? So I'm starting here. I've gone through this stop button. I'm going to go into my start. The other side of my start, I need to go to my M1 or my motor, okay? So I'm going to take that and I'm going to need to find an alligator clip here. And I'm going to plug that into here. And then I'm going to go to my M1, okay? It's labeled clearly there on the board. It is that far back terminal, okay? Then I also need to complete my circuit by going through my overloads, okay? So coming off of my neutral, I'm going to hit down at the bottom, which is my neutral. It's the terminal all the way down at the bottom, okay? And then if I was to fire this up now, what's going to happen is I'll be able to start this, but there's nothing to hold it. So I need to add these holding contacts. So I'll show you that. So I can turn it on, but as soon as I let go of the button, it's going to stop, okay? So I don't want to have to stand here all day and hold that button for this motor to be energized, right? So I'm going to turn it back off. So what I need to do is add those holding contacts. Holding contacts, if you notice, is going to be right below your start button, okay? All of your motor starters are going to have a holding contact built in, okay? It is right in front of your M1 terminal. That is a normally open set of contacts. And I'm going to plug that in. I can either go to my stop side or to my start side. I typically like to go to the start button just because if I have multiple start and stops and multiple motor contactors, I know which one's wired to the correct motor. Okay, so if I add that in, now I'm going to flip my power back on, and when I hit my start button, I can walk away from it and it's going to keep running, okay, until I hit that stop button. Okay, again, start, stop, start, stop, and you should be able to hear that clicking in and out, okay? Hopefully that helps you understand the principles and how to wire up a simple start-stop station. The next section we'll do 2 stops with 2 starts. Very easy to add those in. Okay, for the second part of our video, we're going to wire up, again, 2 stop buttons and 2 start buttons. Okay, that's going to control the same M1 motor. Okay, so again, once you have the first problem figured out, it's very easy to add. Our stop buttons are always going to be in series with each other, okay? Our start buttons will always be in parallel, okay? So again, our stop buttons are in series, our start buttons are in parallel, and they're wired up exactly like they were before. So again, we want to make sure our power's off before we get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go from our hot terminal. Follow along on the line from L1. We're going to go up to our first stop button. And I'm going to get a longer cord. I'm going to use these stop buttons up here and these start buttons. Okay. So again, I'm going to go to a normally closed stop button. And then I'm going to jump from the other side of our normally closed stop to my very next stop button. Okay, these are in series, so we're going from here through that contact and then across to our next contact. Okay, our next one is going to go from here. This time we're going to go into our normally open set of contact on our first start button. Okay, then we need to pick up our second start button. Okay, these are in parallel, so I'm going to come out of the same exact terminal and I'm going to go into the same terminal on the other start button. Okay, the same thing with the other side of that normally open set of contacts. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go from the right hand side over to the right hand side of my next button. And then if I continue following along, I need to next wire up my M1 starter. So I'm going to come out of that start button, normally open side, and I'm going to hit my M1. And then just like before, we need to make sure we wire up our overloads. So from the neutral, we're going to go to our overload. And then if you remember from the first part, we have to have those holding contacts. We don't want to stand there all day and hit those start buttons. That wouldn't be productive, okay? So we need something that once we hit the button, we can walk away from it and it's going to continue to operate until we come back and hit the stop button, okay? So to do that, I'm going to take my last set of contacts. I want to come off of the very first or the last stop button down to my holding contacts. So I'm going to come off of this side here and I'm going to go to my holding contact. Remember, your holding contact is built into the motor starter. Okay, so it shows a normally open set of contacts there. Those are built in. You could use one of these auxiliary contacts if you wanted to, but since the motor starter already has it there, why not utilize it? Okay, so again, I'm going through my first stop, series, to my second stop, over to my first start button, and then parallel to my next start button, and then I'm going to go to my motor. Okay, it's very easy to add starts and stops simply by just wiring them up in series and parallel. So let's fire this up, and again I'm going to hit my start button. You can hear the motor kick on. If I hit the stop, now if I go over here and hit this start, it does the same. I can hit this stop. Either stop, either start is going to make the motor come on. Okay. If I wanted to add an additional start button, I could simply add 2 wires, right? If I just grab 2 wires and I can come out of either one of these and I can go to another start button and then I can flip this back on and hit that, stop, hit this, stop. Very easy. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helps you while you're at home. Can't wait for you to get back here in the lab so we can try these out together.